G'day guys, welcome back to Life on the Hulls. It's been a pretty big week and I'm a little bit late with this episode because of all the Christmas celebrations. We've just had our whole family here for Christmas, around 35 people in our house for 4 days, so it was pretty full on, and that coupled with the preparations and all of our readiness for these amazing horrendous bushfires that we have burning around our region right up and down the coast. It's just been a very unsettling week for us here, and I'm lucky to have even got a video out at all. But for now, this week's episode is going to concentrate on that main central compression bulkhead that you see me lifting out here. I'm going to get it laminated and get it squared away so that I'm then ready to install it. I'm also going to have a bit of a chat about what I'm going to do with my water tanks and my black water tanks. I finally came up with a solution for the lids and all the fittings, and then you'll see a bit of today. In fact, as I was editing this, I decided to go out and do a bit of filming. We've just had a massive southerly change come through, and all the preparations for the bushfires, so just terrible stuff. Don't forget to like it and subscribe, guys, and I'll see you throughout the episode. Thanks for joining us. I just get myself into such a state. I've got the main bulkhead out here. I've just given it a sand, given it a good clean up, ready to laminate it tomorrow and the next day. What I've done is I've basically lifted it out. I've just given this whole bridge deck a good vacuum. I don't want any dust sort of presenting itself into this when I go to laminate it. I'm going to put a layer of vinyl ester on it, let it soak in, and then I'll come back tomorrow and laminate the 600 double bias onto each side of it before I then peel ply and then be able to put it in place. But check out the mess I'm in. I've just got stuff everywhere. You can see the main bulkhead up on the front here. The main forward compression bulkhead's now in place. I found a couple of areas I just need to relieve, which is this area here just needs a little bit of a sand, and that'll make that sit down absolutely spot on into the spot. So a couple of little areas, and by doing that, that's going to sit down here as well. That's not quite on the line there. You can also see here I'm going to need to relieve this top bit and just let it sit down. Now that's probably just the fiberglass that's hanging over there, and not the plywood. So it's not going to take much. A couple of little relief sands and grinds, and basically it's going to sit in place absolutely spot on. So I want to make sure I've got a little bit of a gap there just to reduce any hard spots. But yeah, that's perfect. Good to see that big fella in place. It's actually about 2 or 3 mils off the deck there, which will sit down once I get this to go down. There's a couple of little areas here I just need to relieve right there. That's about a 2-minute job to relieve that there. It's going to sit down perfectly and mate with that outside surface, and then I can glass him in. Oh, it's not the heaviest thing I've ever carried. Okay, it's time to get this guy done. It goes from the port side right over here to this elbow here, attaching to that module there. So I've given it a good sand, I've given it a good clean, I've filled all the holes, I've just given it a good acetone wipe, and I'm just letting that flash off for a minute. And then I'm going to mix up some resin, I'm going to put a coat on, and it's getting pretty late in the day, but it is about 32 degrees in here at the moment, so expecting it to go off pretty quickly. And in the morning I'll come and give it a really light sand, and then I'm going to get into the layer on this side, which is actually and then I'll flip it over tomorrow night, hopefully after a bit of a trim, and we'll repeat the process on Thursday and Friday. It's Wednesday arvo now, so big job ahead here, and it's hot work. It's hot work. Fortunately, when you're doing 2 sides of a bulkhead, one side's exactly the same as the other. There's no extra measuring or anything. I know I need 230 mil long pieces of 600 double bias and one 230 millimeter long piece, and the subsequent peel ply. So it's simply a matter of replicating the same job. This is the beauty of making something on my own, is I can keep these things in my head. I'm not doing 15 or 20 other jobs. I'm concentrating on one thing at a time, and yeah, it does slow me up a little bit, but it also ensures that I get exactly the same result every single time because I'm taking my time. That replication and slowing it down is the key to a great job, and I'm all for that. I've got this little method here. When I pull out this cloth, that is exactly 1,000 millimeters when it's just touching the floor. So that's how I know I've built that 1 metre high, and essentially it gives me exactly the right measurement every single time. Because I haven't got the space to have a big long 6 or 7 metre long table, it just means that I can easily wheel it off. And I've got that cutting table. Honestly, I've built thousands of things off that cutting table. I've never needed anything longer. I would like a long one, but you know, don't we all? So all I do is I just mark it, and then I measure the next length, which is right on my cutting line there. And then I'm able to put my scissors in the slot. So the final part of me getting this nice and level is to use these rollers. It's a consistency thing. I do it every time. I don't like to have folded fabric. It not only does it weaken it, but it makes it harder to lay out. So the other thing you can do as you roll it, you can actually keep your red line in alignment if there's a red line on your cloth. I mean, I actually personally don't like the red line because I like to have a nice clear finish, but at the end of the day, when you're doing such big amounts like I'm doing here, having those red lines allows me to really train my my cloth to make sure that I'm getting a good consistent straightness and overlap, which I'm required by AMSA to have a 50 millimeter overlap with each piece of cloth. So that's one, and I've got about 8 more to do. So to accurately put this 600 double bias onto this bulkhead, I actually lay it down dry, and then I use a dry brush to ensure there's no air bubbles in there and cut around any excess that I don't want to get resin on. I found this one of the best methods by using a dry brush just to flatten it out beforehand. I ensure there's no bubbles in it, and essentially it goes down nice and smoothly. It's a bit of a job to ensure that it is rolled out correctly, but you also notice there's areas there where the overlaps are. I actually do the underlying cloth first and then lap it over the top to ensure that it's wetted out correctly, and then that final layer of peel ply is laid out just for just to make sure that I've got a good surface to work with later on and keeps it nice and fair and level.
They're playing some great cricket, they've got some experience and some youth, and we've got to take
1 hour,
into that and
10 minutes.
And in today's A-League, the
One bulkhead. 1 hour and 10 minutes of straight laminating, and that is now complete. I've done both sides. I just checked my temperature gauge. Let's have a look, shall we? You may not be able to see it. 35. Frig, that's hot. We're into it. Summer is here. It is the 2nd of November, and yeah, I'm glad that's done. I think the rest of my laminating I can now do in small parts. Apart from the deck, I can now do most of it in the factory up there, apart from my tabbing of the bulkheads and everything, which is you know, small work where I'm not working too hard. But that was an epic. So I've been here for about 4 hours, 3 hours of prep, hour and 10 minutes of laminating, and she's done. Bloody happy with that. This, everyone, This, everyone, is a very good sight. That main bulkhead is now laminated. It's ready to go back into place. I'm not going to glue it in yet because I've got a lot of work to do under the floor there to get those water tanks and the black water tanks finished. But once I do that, I can then just glass them in. So while I was waiting for all my plumbing attachments and things to arrive for my tanks and how I was working out how I was going to finish them, I've just gotten on with other jobs. I've got all of the main bulkheads now laminated, and everything forward of the rear cabin is basically in place and ready to glass in when I get the floors down. So lots of work going on, and yeah, it was particularly hot here on Saturday, and I'm really pleased with how this is cured. It's actually a really perfect finish. I'm just going to get some scissors, trim off the excess peel ply around the outside, get my multi-tool and trim it neat to the edge, sand it, and then it's ready to go in. Basically, it's going to be completed. Now you'll notice I'm also not trimming, I'm not pulling all the peel ply off. I'm going to leave most of it on there until it comes time to tab and reveal it just as I need it. And that way it'll keep the integrity of the surface ready for laminating straight as soon as I pull off the peel ply. If you pull the peel ply off, you're going to get dust and contaminants in it, and it's going to require a little bit of sand to get it going again. We don't want to do that. I've done it with the hull, or sorry, the whole floor here up on the bridge deck and in the hull, because I've been sort of working on it and it was hard to walk around with peel ply, bits of remnant peel ply everywhere. But for the purpose of these bulkheads, I'm pretty much leaving it in place. You can see it on all these other parts where it's still quite adhered to it around the edges. I've left it where I can actually get in and give it a quick swish with some 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm ready to laminate. Oh, decided to spare you that because that was about an hour and a half of pretty loud and pretty uncomfortable trimming. You can see here all my offcuts here. So sometimes it's better not to green trim and just hit it with a multi-tool. Those multi-tools don't create a lot of dust, and the other thing they don't do is they don't tend to delaminate like a grinder will. A grinder will actually put that much force on the laminate that often it'll delaminate it from a substrate. So there's a good reason to use those multi-tools. There is a good way to use it though. I tend to always use it backwards and not forwards. I don't push forward, I pull back. By pulling back, I tend to have a little bit of a better result from a cutting point of view, and I get less chance of it sort of ripping the substrate off the plywood. But yeah, that's all my excess there. It's all sanded and pretty much ready to install. I'm going to sit it in place, and then just before I fillet it, I'm going to wet out all of the end grain of it, just to make sure I'm getting an incredibly watertight sealed bulkhead prior to me filleting it in place and then ultimately tabbing it. So yeah, big job. Time to clean up. It's going to be a good thing to get this out of the way, because then I can get back to actually real work or doing some petitions, because I'm sort of at a point now where I've just got that much stuff laying around here that I need to have another big cleanup. And yeah, good to have that big bugger ticked off the list. I mean, that is a monster bit of progress for a boat of this size. So I've just come back from my trip to Sydney, and you know, for the last few months I've been wondering how I was going to deal with the fittings on the top of my tanks, particularly my blackwater and my freshwater tanks, because I've made the lids, the fiberglass lids, these foam core lids for the tanks, and this is one of the reasons why I haven't finished them, because I've sort of been deliberating as to what I need to do to make sure that firstly my fittings are sealed, secondly they're going to work properly. And look, I could have easily just cored the foam, put a fitting in, screwed the fitting in, the pickup straws and the works, but the guys at RWB Marine here in Australia, Scotty, who I had come and check out and talk to me about my plumbing, he and I sort of came up with a solution that we think is an absolutely brilliant idea. I was able to score some old tanks. Now the beauty of these is that they've been returned, obviously they've been abused or pulled out of boats, and luckily ended up in my hands, and I've got 4 of these. And the beauty of them is that they have a screw thread, and if I just show you the thread, this part here, it's a bit hard to hold up, this part here, this rim here, accepts a factory lid. So what I've decided I'm going to do is in my kayak building days, which is still now, but in my kayak building days I used to fit hatch rims on all of my kayaks so that we'd have access in and out of the kayak. I'm going to cut these out and cut the circle there, and then I'm going to Sikaflex that part down onto the top of my hatch lid, and then I'm going to screw stainless bolts all the way around so that I can then put a threaded lid into the better off with this one. I'm going to then be able to put a threaded lid, which I can buy separately, which I've already bought because I've got them here. This thing, complete with all the fittings, senders and everything, all in one lid. So I'm not going to have them all over the lids of my tanks. I'll basically have one part, because this is already mounted to my tank lid, and screw that in place on my lid. What a fantastic idea. Now the beauty of it is all of these parts I can buy separately. I can buy a fitting for that, I can buy a fitting for that, I can buy breathers, I can buy the transducers or the pickup, the float level, the sensors. And you know, essentially it's just a really good way of me guaranteeing that I'm always going to be able to get parts for my tank lids, which basically come in a kit. I can just ring up and order a kit, and I can buy spare seals and the works. Plus, I can remove them to get in to clean out my tanks. It just doesn't get any better than that solution. I don't have to worry about fuel. This one here is for fuel. Brown is for black water, obviously for the brown stuff, and blue for fresh water. What a solution, eh? I love it. I'm absolutely loving this whole idea. So I'm going to get to cutting these rims out, and I've got 4 of them, which is exactly what I want, and then I can just discard those tanks, put them into hopefully into the recycling for, you know, use with something else. It is 3 p.m. on New Year's Eve, and look at that. That's smoke, and we've got a massive fire. It's about 200 kilometres long, going from the north up here in a town called Nowra all the way south to the border. It's just absolutely diabolical, and you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pitch black. There's going to be oily eucalyptus rain here pretty soon, I'd imagine. We've got a 40k to 50k an hour, which is about 30 knot wind blowing through. Guys about 10 k's away struggling, and look at all the street lights that come on. It is one very evil scene here right now, and not a very nice one. This is our second time this week we've experienced this, and mate, the whole place is on fire. We've been told to stay put, don't even try to evacuate. It's too late. So that's the messages we're getting through on our phones, and we're all just wetting stuff down. I've got all the roofs, all my gutters are now plugged up with foam, and basically just waiting for any ember attack, because that's what takes out these houses. So, you know, think of the whole east coast of Australia at the moment, guys. The whole bloody place is on fire. It is a bit scary, and we've had 4 or 5 weeks of this, and the preparation is exhausting. My God. And it's just started to rain, so that means we're going to get absolutely smashed. That is crazy. So I've just come up to the factory here to cut some more foam blocks to stick in the downpipes of my house, and mate, it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and look at this, it's pitch black. It's like Arctic bloody winter here at the moment. It is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's dark. It's like about 9 o'clock at night, and we've got daylight savings, so it doesn't get dark here till about 9:30 at night. So, you know, looking around this place, it's like Armageddon at the moment. And that is a fire there, and there's another one there. That one's going north, and the one behind me is coming straight for this area. We're all on tender hooks at the moment, but I think it's going to be okay, because the wind's actually swiftly shifting around to the southwest, which is hopefully going to blow the smoke away, and then hopefully it'll go southeasterly and blow it back on itself. It's been